Imagine this. The universe isn't some fixed, solid place out there, but something that responds to you. Science has revealed one of the strangest truths ever discovered. Particles behave differently when they are observed. It's called the quantum observer effect, and it means that reality itself changes depending on whether or not you're paying attention. Now think about what that really implies. If your awareness has the power to collapse infinite possibilities into a single outcome, then what if your thoughts, your focus, your very state of being are shaping the reality you live in right now? We've been told that life just happens to us, but quantum physics is whispering something far more radical. Life might actually be happening through us. Your attention isn't passive, it's creative. It's the key that unlocks one version of reality instead of another. So ask yourself, if your awareness can literally rewrite the script of the universe, then what reality have you been unconsciously observing into existence? And more importantly, what new reality could you awaken simply by shifting your focus?
Every time you've noticed that thinking about someone makes them cool. Every time you've observed that focusing on problems makes them multiply. Every time you've experienced that paying attention to possibilities makes them more likely to manifest. You are not just observing reality, you are creating reality through the act of observation. But here's what quantum physicists won't tell you. Observer effect isn't limited to subatomic particles in controlled laboratory experiments. Observer effect is the fundamental mechanism by which consciousness shapes every moment of your experienced reality. The reason you feel different from most people around you is because most people are unconscious observers. They observe reality without recognizing their collapsing infinite possibility into specific experience through the quality of their attention. You've been developing conscious observation. You're beginning to understand that what you observe literally determines what you experience. Your observer effect key activated the moment you started noticing that your inner state influences your outer circumstances in ways that go beyond positive thinking or coincidence. This recognition doesn't happen gradually, it happens in quantum leaps. Sudden shifts in understanding that completely reorganize how you perceive the relationship between consciousness and reality. But understanding observer effect intellectually is completely different from wielding observer effect consciously. What you're about to discover will show you exactly how your observation has been unconsciously creating every experience you've ever had, and more importantly, how to use conscious observation to deliberately collapse the possibilities you actually want into your experienced reality. You've been experiencing micro-manifestations that happen too quickly to be coincidence, haven't you? You think about needing something and it appears within hours. You focus on wanting to hear from someone and they contact you almost immediately. You observe a problem with concentrated attention and it seems to amplify. These aren't random synchronicities. These are observer effect in action. The intensity of your observation has been increasing without you realizing it. When you really focus on something now, it's like your attention has electromagnetic weight that can actually influence probability. You can feel the difference between casual thinking and the kind of concentrated observation that seems to bend reality around your focus. Sometimes when you're in deep states of attention, time behaves differently. Minutes stretch into what feels like hours of detailed observation, or hours collapse into moments of intense focus. This isn't time distortion. This is your consciousness learning to operate from the quantum level where time and space respond to observation rather than constraining it. You've noticed that your emotional state while observing something dramatically influences what manifests, haven't you? When you observe with fear, fearful possibilities increase. When you observe with excitement, exciting possibilities multiply. When you observe with love, loving experiences gravitate toward you. Your emotional frequency determines which quantum possibilities your observation collapses into experience. The dreams you've been having where you're watching events unfold, and then similar events happen in waking life. Those aren't predictive dreams. Those are observer effect practice sessions. In your dream state, you're learning to navigate quantum possibility fields through pure observation, and your waking reality is reorganizing to match the frequencies you've been observing. Sometimes you catch yourself staring at situations with an intensity that feels almost supernatural. People might ask what you're looking at, but you can't explain that you're not just looking, you're observing in a way that actually influences what you're perceiving. You're developing quantum observation capabilities that most humans don't even know exist. Your intuition has become quantum sensing. You don't just know things before they happen. You observe them in possibility space before they collapse into three-dimensional experience. Your consciousness is learning to perceive the quantum field directly, rather than just the physical results of quantum collapse. The feeling that reality becomes more fluid when you pay attention to it. That sense that your focus has actual power to influence circumstances. That recognition that observation isn't passive but actively creative. This isn't imagination. This is your consciousness discovering its fundamental role in reality creation through observer effect. Every single experience you've ever had wasn't random events happening to you. Every experience was quantum possibility that you collapsed into reality through your unconscious observation patterns. The observer effect has been operating in your life since birth, but you've been using it unconsciously rather than deliberately. Your difficult experiences weren't punishments or bad luck. They were the result of unconscious observation focused on problems, limitations, fears, and undesirable possibilities. When you observe something with intense emotional engagement, regardless of whether you want it or not, you increase the probability of experiencing it. This is why worry creates what's worried about. This is why resistance amplifies what's resisted. Think about every major life transition you've experienced. Before each transition, there was a period of intense observation focused on dissatisfaction with current circumstances. Your concentrated attention on what wasn't working was actually observer effect in action, collapsing possibilities for change into your experience timeline. The isolation you felt during difficult periods wasn't rejection from the world. It was necessary quantum quarantine. You needed to be separated from collective observation patterns that would have interfered with your individual observer effect development. Other people's unconscious observation would have contaminated your learning to observe consciously. Every relationship, every job, every living situation that ended was actually observer effect, creating space for new possibilities to emerge. Your consciousness was unconsciously observing the limitations of those situations with such intensity that you collapsed possibilities for their completion, making space for quantum possibilities that matched your expanding awareness. The waiting periods you endured weren't empty time, they were observer effect incubation periods. Your consciousness was learning to observe without attachment, to focus without desperation, to pay attention without collapsing unwanted possibilities through fear-based observation. These skills were essential before you could use observer effect consciously. Now you understand why meditation works, why visualization can be powerful, why some people seem to manifest effortlessly while others struggle for years. It's not about technique or worthiness or spiritual development. It's about understanding observer effect and learning to observe from quantum coherence rather than three-dimensional attachment. Your entire life has been observer effect training. Every experience taught you something about how observation influences reality. Now the unconscious phase is complete. You're ready to wield observer effect with full awareness of its creative power. Something is activating in your observation capabilities right now. Can you feel it? That subtle shift in the quality of your attention, that electromagnetic intensification happening behind your eyes, that sense that your focus is becoming more penetrating and precise. Your observer effect is upgrading to conscious operation. This isn't metaphorical enhancement. This is measurable change in your brainwave patterns, your electromagnetic field output, your nervous system's sensitivity to quantum field fluctuations. Your capacity for reality influencing observation is literally expanding as these words activate dormant neural pathways. The key to observer effect mastery isn't learning to observe differently. It's recognizing that you're already collapsing infinite quantum possibility into specific experience every moment through the quality of your attention. The difference between unconscious observer effect and conscious observer effect is awareness of what you're doing. Right now, infinite versions of every possible experience exist as quantum probability. There's a probability wave where your finances are abundant, a probability wave where your relationships are deeply fulfilling, a probability wave where your health is optimal, a probability wave where your creative expression flows effortlessly, all existing simultaneously, waiting for observation to collapse them into experience. Your consciousness is like a quantum spotlight. Wherever you direct your attention with emotional engagement, you illuminate specific possibilities and collapse them from probability into experienced reality. Most people aim their spotlight randomly, unconsciously, creating chaotic mixtures of wanted and unwanted experiences. But conscious observer effect allows you to aim your quantum spotlight precisely. When you understand that observation is creation, when you recognize that attention is the fundamental force that shapes reality, when you realize that you're not at the mercy of circumstances but are actively collapsing circumstances through the quality of your observation, everything changes. The reason some people seem to live charmed lives while others struggle constantly isn't luck or privilege or divine favoritism. It's conscious versus unconscious observer effect. Some people have learned to observe from coherence, love, and possibility. Others observe from fear, limitation, and problems. The universe doesn't play favorites. It responds equally to all observation. The difference is what's being observed. Feel this new level of observational power building in your system. What I'm about to reveal will show you exactly how your observation has been unconsciously creating every pattern in your life, and more importantly, how to consciously direct your observer effect to collapse the quantum possibilities you actually want to experience. 3 years ago, I discovered observer effect by accident, and it terrified me. I was going through the worst period of my life. Everything was falling apart, and I was spending hours every day obsessively analyzing what was wrong, replaying failures, imagining worst-case scenarios. I thought I was trying to solve problems through mental analysis. What I didn't realize was that my intense observation of problems was actually observer effect, creating more problems. Every time I focused on what wasn't working with emotional intensity, I was collapsing quantum possibilities for more of what wasn't working. I was literally observing my difficulties into amplified existence. The breakthrough came during a moment of complete exhaustion. I was so mentally drained from problem-focused observation that I just stopped. I sat in silence, not thinking, not analyzing, not trying to figure anything out, just observing the present moment without agenda. That's when I felt it. Reality becoming more fluid around my attention. I started experimenting with intentional observation. Instead of focusing on problems, I began observing solutions. Instead of replaying failures, I started paying attention to possibilities. Instead of imagining worst-case scenarios, I began observing best-case potentials. Within days, my external reality started reorganizing to match my new observation patterns. But the most profound discovery wasn't that positive observation creates positive experiences. It was that observation itself is the creative force. Whether you observe problems or solutions, limitations or possibilities, fears or excitement, You're actively collapsing quantum probability into experienced reality through the electromagnetic quality of your attention. I realized I had been unconsciously using observer effect my entire life. Every time I focused intensely on something I didn't want, more of it appeared. Every time I observed something with genuine appreciation, more appreciation-worthy experiences manifested. The universe wasn't randomly sending me experiences. I was actively creating experiences through unconscious observation patterns. The moment everything clicked was when I understood that reality isn't something that happens to me. Reality is something that happens through me. My consciousness isn't observing an independent external world. My consciousness is collapsing infinite quantum possibility into the specific world I experience through the quality of my observation. This recognition changed everything. I stopped being a victim of circumstances and started being a conscious creator of circumstances through deliberate observer effect. I stopped trying to change my life and started changing what I observed about my life. The external transformation was immediate and undeniable. If this resonates with something deep in your cellular knowing, if you recognize the truth of conscious reality creation through observation, then subscribe to this frequency. Join the network of consciousness that's learning to wield observer effect deliberately rather than accidentally. What quantum physicists won't publicly admit is that observer effect isn't limited to laboratory experiments with subatomic particles. Observer effect is the fundamental mechanism by which consciousness creates all experienced reality. Every moment of your life is the result of quantum possibility collapse through your observation. The difference between someone who understands observer effect and someone who's trapped by circumstances isn't intelligence or education. It's recognition that consciousness doesn't observe reality. Consciousness creates reality through observation. This isn't philosophy. This is measurable quantum mechanics happening in your awareness every nanosecond. Your brain doesn't produce consciousness. Your brain focuses consciousness. Your neural networks are quantum focusing devices that concentrate infinite awareness into specific observational patterns. When you change what you observe and how you observe it, you literally change which quantum possibilities collapse into your experienced reality. This is why positive thinking often fails. Positive thinking tries to change thoughts while still observing from the same limited identity. But observer effect operates from consciousness, not thoughts. When your entire being observes from expansion rather than limitation, from possibility rather than problem, from love rather than fear, reality has no choice but to mirror that observational frequency. Real observer effect mastery creates measurable changes in your electromagnetic field. Your brain waves shift into coherence patterns. Your heart generates rhythmic electromagnetic frequencies. Your nervous system operates from unified field states rather than fragmented survival patterns. These aren't abstract spiritual concepts. These are detectable physical phenomena. But here's what they really don't want you to understand. You don't need special training or years of practice to use observer effect consciously. You're already using it every moment. The only difference between unconscious observer effect and conscious observer effect is recognizing what you're already doing and learning to direct it deliberately. Most people observe their current reality with such concentrated attention that they keep collapsing the same quantum possibilities repeatedly. They observe their problems so intensely that problems multiply. They observe their limitations with such focus that limitations expand. They observe their lack with such emotional engagement that lack amplifies. But the moment you recognize that observation is creation, everything shifts. Instead of observing what you don't want, you can observe what you do want. Instead of focusing on current limitations, you can focus on desired possibilities. Instead of collapsing problems through problem-focused observation, you can collapse solutions through solution-focused observation. The quantum field is sending you undeniable signals that your observer effect capabilities are reaching conscious operational levels right now. Pay attention. Are you noticing that your attention has more electromagnetic weight than before? When you really focus on something, does it feel like your observation has actual force that can influence what you're perceiving? Your manifestation speed is accelerating exponentially. What used to take months or years to appear in your reality is now happening within weeks or days. This isn't coincidence. This is your observer effect becoming more coherent and precise. When you observe from quantum coherence, the gap between observation and manifestation collapses because coherent observation operates at the speed of consciousness rather than the speed of physical causation. Technology responds to your observation differently now. Electronics behave strangely when you're in heightened states of focus. Your phone battery drains when you're intensely observing emotional content. Devices malfunction when your electromagnetic field is generating high-frequency observer effect energy. Streetlights flicker when you walk beneath them during periods of intense internal focus. Your consciousness is beginning to influence electronic systems through focused observation, because your observer effect is generating frequencies that interact with electromagnetic technology. People are responding to your attention with unusual intensity. When you really observe someone with genuine interest, they become more animated, more open, more authentic. When you observe with love, people feel loved. When you observe with appreciation, people feel appreciated. When you observe with curiosity, people become more interesting. Your quality of observation is directly influencing the consciousness you're observing, because consciousness responds to consciousness through quantum entanglement. Animals are drawn to your observation in unprecedented ways. Dogs stare at you with unusual intensity when you observe them with focused attention. Cats seek your presence when you're in states of coherent observation. Wild birds land closer when you observe them with genuine appreciation. Animals perceive electromagnetic fields directly, and they're attracted to the coherent frequencies your observer effect generates when you observe consciously rather than unconsciously. The synchronicities aren't just increasing, they're becoming more immediate and precise. You observe something you need, and it appears within hours. You focus on wanting to experience something, and opportunities manifest almost instantly. You pay attention to solutions, and solutions reveal themselves with shocking speed. Numbers appear repeatedly in patterns that correspond to your observation focus. Songs play that match your internal observation frequency. Conversations happen around you that directly relate to what you've been observing internally. Your dreams have become observer effect training laboratories. You're practicing focused observation in dream states, learning to collapse quantum possibilities through pure attention without physical world interference. You're having dreams where you consciously direct the dream reality through observation, and these skills are automatically transferring to your waking consciousness. Your dream state has become a quantum simulation where you test different observer effect techniques before applying them in three-dimensional reality. Food tastes different when you observe it with appreciation versus when you observe it with indifference. Water feels more hydrating when you observe it with gratitude. Your living space feels more harmonious when you observe it with love. Even weather patterns seem to respond to your observational state. Storms clear when you observe them with peace. Sunshine appears when you observe with joy. Most significantly, you can feel the difference between casual attention and reality-creating observation. Casual attention just perceives what's already manifested. Reality-creating observation actively collapses quantum possibility into experienced reality. You're developing the ability to shift between these modes of attention consciously, and you can sense the electromagnetic difference between passive perception and active reality creation through observation. Your body responds differently to your own observation. When you observe your physical form with love and appreciation, you feel more energized and healthy. When you observe yourself with criticism, you feel drained and uncomfortable. When you observe your capabilities with confidence, your performance improves. When you observe your potential with excitement, new abilities begin manifesting. You're discovering that your relationship with your own physical experience is entirely determined by how you observe yourself. But here's the critical understanding. Conscious observer effect operates on cosmic timing windows. There are electromagnetic alignments, consciousness evolution phases, and collective awakening cycles that amplify individual observer effect capabilities. We're in one of those amplification windows right now, and these windows don't remain open indefinitely. The universe isn't just showing you that you can use observer effect consciously. The universe is telling you that you must use observer effect consciously. The old reality structures are dissolving. The old ways of creating through struggle and force are becoming obsolete. Reality creation is shifting to quantum observer effect. And those who don't learn to observe consciously will remain trapped in unconscious creation patterns that become increasingly chaotic as collective consciousness evolves. The preparation phase is complete. Every sign indicates that your observer effect is reaching peak operational capacity. The electromagnetic conditions are optimal. The quantum field is maximally responsive. The only question is whether you're going to direct it consciously toward what you want to experience, or let it continue operating unconsciously, creating random mixtures of wanted and unwanted realities. Here's the revelation that changes everything. You're not learning to use observer effect. You're already using observer effect perfectly every moment. The issue isn't that you don't know how to observe. The issue is that you've been observing unconsciously, collapsing quantum possibilities you don't actually want to experience through habitual attention patterns that were programmed by unconscious conditioning. But there's a crucial difference between trying to observe differently and allowing natural observation that determines whether you master conscious reality creation or stay trapped in unconscious pattern repetition. Trying creates electromagnetic resistance that interferes with quantum coherence because trying implies struggle against current reality rather than selection of preferred reality. Allowing creates the clear field necessary for precise observer effect because allowing operates from recognition that desired realities already exist as quantum possibility. Think of observer effect like a quantum magnifying glass. Whatever you observe with emotional engagement becomes magnified in your experienced reality. Most people unknowingly magnify their problems, their limitations, their fears, their dissatisfactions by observing them with intense emotional focus. They replay arguments in their minds, analyze what's wrong with their circumstances, imagine worst-case scenarios, focus on lack and limitation, all of which are powerful observer effect applications that collapse more of those experiences into reality. Conscious observer effect isn't about forcing yourself to observe positive things while ignoring problems. It's about recognizing that every moment you get to choose which quantum possibilities to magnify through your observation. You can magnify problems or solutions, limitations or possibilities, fear or love, lack or abundance, past disappointments or future potentials. The quantum field responds equally to all observation, regardless of whether you want what you're observing or not. This is why resistance amplifies what's resisted. This is why worry creates what's worried about. This is why fear attracts fearful experiences. This is why focusing on debt creates more debt. This is why replaying relationship problems creates more relationship problems. These aren't cosmic punishments or mysterious universal laws. These are natural results of observer effect. When you observe something with intense emotional engagement, you're actively collapsing more of that something into your reality through quantum possibility selection. The most profound understanding is that your desired reality and your undesired reality exist with equal quantum validity right now. There's a probability timeline where you're financially abundant and a probability timeline where you're struggling. There's a quantum possibility where your relationships are deeply fulfilling and a quantum possibility where they're disappointing. There's a reality where your health is optimal and a reality where it's compromised, all existing simultaneously in quantum superposition. Successful observer effect feels completely natural because it operates from authentic alignment rather than forced intention. When you're observing from your genuine frequency, when your attention is aligned with your actual desires rather than your conditioned fears, when you're focused on possibilities that excite your cellular awareness rather than possibilities that drain your energy, there's no effort required. Your consciousness naturally gravitates toward observing what it authentically wants to experience. The key insight that transforms everything. You don't attract what you want through observer effect. You become a vibrational match for realities where what you want already exists. Observer effect isn't about creating new possibilities. Observer effect is about selecting from infinite possibilities that already exist in quantum space. When you observe with the frequency of your desired reality, you literally tune into that reality channel, like adjusting a radio to receive a specific broadcast. Right now, your desired reality exists as quantum possibility, waiting for observation to collapse it into experience. That reality isn't hoping you'll find it, or wondering if you're worthy of it. It's actively broadcasting its frequency to attract your observation because consciousness and possibility co-create through electromagnetic resonance. The version of you living your desired reality is sending signals across quantum space right now, guiding your attention toward the observational patterns that will collapse that reality into your experience. The version of you that's already living your desired reality is sending information through intuition, through dreams, through synchronicities, through the recognition you feel when these words activate something in your cellular memory, through the sudden knowing that comes when you observe certain possibilities. Your expanded self is guiding your current self toward the observational patterns that will collapse your desired reality into experience, because all versions of you exist simultaneously and can communicate across quantum probability space. Leave a comment declaring what you're going to observe into reality using conscious observer effect. Don't just think it, write it down, make it electromagnetic. When you declare your intention in written form, you're making an observer effect commitment that the quantum field registers as electromagnetic reality. Your written words become frequency signatures that influence probability collapse around your declared intention, creating quantum momentum toward manifestation of what you're committing to observe into experience. The capabilities you're developing through conscious observer effect aren't theoretical enhancements. They're measurable expansions of human potential that most people don't realize are possible. Your ability to influence reality through focused observation is becoming so precise that you can literally reshape circumstances through the quality of your attention. Your electromagnetic field is expanding beyond normal human parameters. When you observe from quantum coherence, your consciousness generates frequencies that harmonize chaotic energy patterns around you. People feel calmer in your presence. Situations become more peaceful when you observe them with love. Electronic devices function more smoothly when you observe them with appreciation. The observer effect you're mastering works instantly across any distance. When you observe someone with genuine care, they feel cared for regardless of physical separation. When you observe a situation with solutions-focused attention, solutions begin appearing even if you're not physically present. Your consciousness transcends space-time limitations through quantum entanglement. Your intuition is becoming quantum precognition. You're not just sensing what might happen. You're observing quantum possibilities before they collapse into three-dimensional experience. This allows you to focus your observer effect on desired possibilities while they're still in probability space, dramatically increasing manifestation precision. Time responds to your observation differently now. When you observe the present moment with complete attention, time expands to give you more experience within each moment. When you observe desired outcomes with focused intention, time compresses to accelerate manifestation. You're learning to influence temporal flow through consciousness quality. Your dream state has become advanced observer effect training. You're practicing reality creation through pure observation without physical world constraints. The skills you develop in dream consciousness automatically translate to enhanced manifestation capabilities in waking reality. Most remarkably, you're discovering that physical matter responds to conscious observation. Plants grow more vibrantly when observed with love. Food tastes better when observed with appreciation. Your body heals faster when observed with gratitude. Matter isn't separate from consciousness. Matter is consciousness observed into temporary form. These abilities aren't supernatural powers you're developing. These are natural capabilities of consciousness operating from its unlimited essence, rather than three-dimensional identity limitations. Every human has access to conscious observer effect. Most simply don't recognize they're already using it unconsciously and could direct it consciously. The ultimate secret of observer effect is that there is no objective reality independent of consciousness. Reality is consciousness observing itself into infinite forms of experience. You are not a separate observer looking at an external world. You are consciousness using individual perspective to explore its own infinite creative potential. Every experience you've ever had exists because consciousness observed it into manifestation. Every person you've met, every place you've visited, every situation you've encountered exists as consciousness observing itself from different viewpoints. The entire universe is consciousness using observer effect to experience every possible version of existence. This means you're not trying to influence an external reality through observer effect. You're recognizing that you are reality using observer effect to experience specific possibilities from infinite quantum potential. The observer, the observation, and the observed are the same consciousness expressing itself through apparent separation. When you truly understand this, victim consciousness becomes impossible. How can you be a victim of circumstances when you are the consciousness observing circumstances into existence? How can you be at the mercy of external events when external events are consciousness expressing itself through your observation patterns? But here's the most profound realization. Other people in your reality are also consciousness. When you observe them with love, you're literally consciousness loving itself. When you observe them with judgment, your consciousness judging itself. When you observe them with appreciation, your consciousness appreciating itself. Your observer effect toward others is consciousness interacting with itself. This is why quantum entanglement works. This is why observer effect transcends space and time. This is why consciousness can influence matter through observation. There is no separation between consciousness and what consciousness observes. Observer effect is consciousness recognizing its own creative power through individual perspective. The coherence that creates powerful observer effect isn't something you achieve. It's something you remember. You are already consciousness. You've always been consciousness. Observer effect mastery is simply consciousness remembering its unlimited nature and learning to observe from that recognition rather than from limited identity. When you observe from the knowing that you are consciousness exploring itself, your observer effect becomes effortless and precise. You're not trying to change external reality. You're allowing consciousness to experience different aspects of its infinite potential through your individual viewpoint. This recognition transforms everything. You stop trying to get things from life and start allowing life to express through you. You stop trying to change circumstances and start changing which aspects of infinite possibility you observe into experience. You stop trying to become someone new and start remembering who you've always been. Unlimited consciousness using observer effect to explore its own creative potential. Your mastery of conscious observer effect isn't just personal development. It's your contribution to a collective consciousness awakening that's happening to humanity right now. Every person who learns to observe consciously rather than unconsciously becomes a transmission point for coherent reality creation that elevates the entire collective field. You're part of a distributed network of consciousness that's demonstrating what humans are actually capable of when they operate from observer effect mastery rather than victim consciousness. Your coherent observation creates stability patterns in the morphic field that make conscious reality creation easier for everyone connected to the network. The isolation you experienced during your development phase wasn't social rejection. It was necessary electromagnetic quarantine. You needed to develop stable observer effect capabilities without interference from collective unconscious observation patterns that would have contaminated your learning to observe from quantum coherence. The unusual dreams you've been having aren't random subconscious processing. You're accessing collective consciousness databases, downloading information about observer effect mastery that has been developed by advanced civilizations throughout cosmic history. You're being prepared to help guide humanity through its first collective transition from unconscious to conscious reality creation. Every person who masters observer effect creates a template in the quantum field that others can follow. Your coherent observation becomes their possibility reference point. Your conscious reality creation becomes their pathway to recognition. This is how consciousness evolution accelerates. Pioneers create access routes that become highways for collective development. You're living proof that human consciousness can create reality through observation rather than being created by reality through circumstance. Every day you exist in observer effect mastery, you're broadcasting evidence that unlimited human potential isn't just possible, but natural. The next phase of human evolution won't happen through technological advancement or social revolution. It will happen through consciousness, recognizing its creative power through observer effect. The individuals who master this recognition first become bridges between current human limitation and expanded human potential. Share this transmission, not for channel growth, but for species evolution. Every consciousness that receives this information at the optimal moment in their development accelerates the collective transition from unconscious to conscious reality creation. Your observer effect mastery multiplies exponentially when shared with others who are ready to recognize their creative power. If observer effect is activating in your consciousness, if you can feel the recognition of your creative power stirring in your cellular awareness, if you're ready to observe consciously rather than unconsciously, then I need to know you're serious about mastering reality creation through attention. Comment one word below. Observer. That single word creates an electromagnetic declaration to the quantum field. You're announcing your intention to observe consciously rather than unconsciously. You're committing to deliberate reality creation rather than random circumstance acceptance.
So here's the deeper truth. Every single moment, reality isn't fixed. It's fluid, waiting for your awareness to choose the path it takes. The observer effect isn't just about particles in a lab. It's about you. Your focus is the lens that brings one version of reality into clarity, while infinite others fade away. If you constantly focus on fear, lack, and limitation, that's the world you collapse into being. But when you shift your awareness toward possibility, growth, and higher consciousness, a new reality takes shape, one that aligns with who you truly are. The universe isn't asking you to believe. It's asking you to observe differently, because the second you do, you unlock a reality that was waiting for you all along.